Hello and welcome back to Art Laughs with me, Verity Babs. Today I spoke to Fatiha El-Ghorri about this incredible photograph by Hassan Hajjaj. We also spoke about how art weaves itself into everyday life in North African culture and about Islamic art and about Fatiha's own experience with art, and I really hope you enjoy the episode. Fatiha, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Fatiha El-Ghorri and I'm a stand-up comedian. And thank you for having me, Verity. I'm really excited
Oh,
to
I'm
be
excited. You have picked such a badass photo.
here.
Why don't
Yay!
you introduce it to us?
So the photo that I've chosen is from a Moroccan photographer. And the reason why I've chosen a Moroccan photographer is because I am Moroccan. So there's a little theme there. So his name is Hassan Hajjaj. And he's from my town, actually, in Morocco. So, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Shame he doesn't respond to my messages, but yeah, anyway. So he's a photographer and his photos are very like he mixes in like the North African fashion as well as pop art. He uses like male and female people, like models and stuff. He's also photographed loads of famous people like Nicki Minaj. I think he's done French Montana. I'm not sure, who is Moroccan as well, and all these different people that he's photographed. But he's using the same fashions that he uses in his other art. So the same, like the North African clothing, and but there's just so much sass, there's so much attitude, and as you can see from the picture, there's women with hijab and women with the veil, which is called a niqab. In North Africa, we call that like a haig, what they're wearing. So yeah, I just think it's so different and so beautiful and reflects a different side of, I guess, North African culture, mixes it in with the new, and yeah, I just love it. I think it's great.
It's such a brilliant, bright, sort of in your face photograph. So around the sides, it's got these sort of like Duplo bricks, and you
Yes.
can see the sort of Nike tick on the women's clothing and on one of the shoes, and it
Yes.
does feel instantly like very different from any art that I've ever been exposed to, kind of coming out of North Africa. And I think it
Yeah.
is a very sort of different vibe to those in the West who aren't necessarily familiar with these cultures wouldn't expect to see this image. It feels really different.
Yes. So yeah, those bricks around the sides. Like if you look at his other images, you'll see on the sides he'll have stuff that that are that we have in Morocco. Like maybe the cans of tuna that we used to buy in the shop, or like the bottles of drink. Something that if when a Moroccan sees it, is automatically brought back to Morocco when you look at it. And he usually puts that around the sides of his pictures as well. Even like the flooring, that's the flooring that we have. I've got a dress like that blue dress. I've got one like that. So like that's called a jileba, and it's like we have men's ones and women's ones. So and everybody has one. And then like the footwear is called bilha, and it's made of leather. And again, we have men's ones and women's ones, and we have like ones where that are traditional, like traditional wedding ones,
Mm-hmm.
traditional party ones, and then you have like your everyday ones that you just wear, and then you have ones that are special for certain celebrations and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just like it's Morocco with a modern twist, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just great. I love it.
And it is just the colours that stand out so much, and it's so interesting to hear that that the brands that have sort of been used to frame the artworks in these series are just sort of common household items that would be really recognizable. And I
Yeah.
think recently, obviously, we're in the sort of wake of the explosion in Beirut, and I've been reading a lot about the fact that basically in the West, some people have this idea that the North Africa and the Middle East are just places where bad things happen all the time, so people aren't emoting in the way they're meant to about this
Yes.
catastrophe, and about the idea that these huge places on earth are just where these things happen, so people aren't caring enough. And seeing images like this are the complete opposite to, I suppose, the sort of war-torn grey images that you're shown on the news repeatedly.
Yes. And like when you look at countries like that as well, people just think of like poverty and
Mm.
desert and waste and just like nothing thrives, or like there's just no, it's just like dead and dying and horrible and, like you said, full of misery. And it's not like that. Don't
Mm.
get me wrong, there is suffering, so we're not saying that doesn't exist, or we're not, like pushing that away or anything like that. But there are also beautiful sides to it. There's beauty in everything, in every situation. And yeah, I just love this art. I just love it. Like, and a lot of it, there's a lot of women that he photographs as well in these. So it's like a juxtaposition, putting two things together that people don't think go together.
Mm.
Like if you go to Marrakesh, which is in Morocco, like they in that city, loads of women are on bicycles all the time. Sorry, not bicycles, motorbikes.
Yeah.
And they ride around on motorbikes and stuff like that, because that's just how they do it in that city.
Mm.
And you wouldn't think that. You'd be like, oh no, no, it's a Muslim country. I bet they don't let their women do that and all that. I'm like, no, I've seen women in Marrakesh on Harleys, bro. Do you know what I mean? With their niqabs on, and they're in their Harleys, like what? Like that kind of thing. So it's just like, it's just showing a different side to that culture, like you said, because the media and that portray a certain image of these kind of countries, and so art like this shows a different side of that country, and hopefully helps people to like open their minds a bit.
Yeah. And is art something that you have had a lot of experience with? Is it something you grew up around?
Yes, I would say most definitely. So when I was in school, I did art in school and performing arts and all that, and I did it in college as well. And then when I went to university, although I didn't finish university, I did do art there as well. So yeah, it's always yeah, I guess it's always been around. Like even for example, I'll give you an example, like the sweets that we make, like when it was Eid time, although I was born and raised here, but like when it was Eid time, we would make like Moroccan sweets. So Eid is like the celebration that we have after Ramadan, and then we have another one 3 months after that one. So we have two Eids in a year. And so we would make sweets and stuff, or if somebody was getting married or something like that. And just the way you make the sweets, the patterning, everything like that. We used to have special tools to do it. Like my mum would shape them, and me and my sisters would be like putting the little designs on them and stuff like that. So we've always had that. And then also like the Moroccan clothes. Like if you see in this, what the women are wearing, these are just like basic ones, basic colors, basic materials and stuff. But there are ones that have got loads of jewels and have like 4 or 5 different colors in them. So like when we're getting ready to go to Morocco, and we go to the market with my mom to buy materials, so that we can go to Morocco and get them made. And you pick your own materials, so you're always aware of like color and matching and that kind of stuff. So yeah, kind of like, I guess, like, and then obviously like growing up, always listening to like Arabic music at home and stuff like that. Well, we did have English music as well, but like my parents always listening to that. My mum always singing it as she baked like bread in the kitchen and stuff. So yeah, I guess we've always, yeah, I guess, although I studied it and stuff, but we did grow up with it, I guess. Yeah.
That's so interesting though, the idea of growing up around it, not almost as an active choice about, every weekend we'd be taken to an art gallery. It was more like, this is just a part of everyday life, like making these ornate meals, and especially the thing about having your outfits tailored. It's so lovely, I think, to have clothes that you've sort of designed yourself. So I think that's really interesting, that it's just a part of your culture is.
Yes.
And in looking at Eastern or North African architecture, it's so ornate, and you see that in the mosques over here, is just that real spark of design and pattern sort of lives through like, generations, through like immigration and stuff. It still sort of thrives on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even like you said, like with the mosques, if you go, the mosques like in Morocco completely different to the mosques here. And if you go to depending on what area you go to, like for example, there's a Turkish mosque in Dalston, and I think it's called the Suleiman Mosque. And if you go in there, like it's it's all tiled and it's got a fountain, and it's like, and then if you go to the East London mosque, it's completely different. All the floors have different color carpets and stuff like that. So every mosque is different, like you said, but you're always surrounded by that. You're always surrounded. Even like, I remember going to Morocco, and then like the settee, because we have like these Moroccan settees, and it will match the curtains, and then when you're eating and they bring out like these serviettes, they will match the couch. I'm like, this is crazy.
It's so coordinated. From my sort of brief experience with looking at Islamic art in university, I feel like I didn't ever do any of the courses on it specifically. So I think the brief introduction I had was about the significance of pattern, but also not portraying figures, and specifically not the figure of the prophet. And I feel like that might well be sort of the only thing that a lot of people know about Islamic art, is that there are no people in it. But actually I feel like it's far more complicated than that, and this idea that you can't really do art properly without people in. You just have to look at like you say, clothes or food or architecture to see that that's so not true.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. And it's funny you should say, I'm going to go back to the food. But it's funny you should say that, like, even when we're doing, like, I don't know if you've ever seen, like, couscous is a massive North African dish, like a proper popular and famous North African dish. So like, and every North African country that has it, like Tunisia has their own version of it, Algeria has their own version of it. Even in Morocco itself, you'll find a difference in between the north and south in how they do it, and the west and the east and stuff. But I'm from the north, which is the best. So, but yeah, even like the way we do it, the way we lay out the vegetables, it's like an art. Like you put the meat in the middle, and then you start to layer the vegetables up like this around it, like a little teepee, and you're like carrot, courgette, chickpeas, what's the other pumpkin, all these, and there's such an art to it. And like you said, because you grow up in it, you kind of take it for granted. You don't realize that like you don't realize it's happening, because it's something you're just used to.
Yeah.
It's just part of your life, like you said, part of your culture, part of your everyday. It's just, even the cups of tea, the tea that we pour the cups in, even there's an art to pouring the tea as well, and everything. Like, it's just yeah, it's amazing.
That's interesting again, why like Hassan Hajjaj has put these everyday items around the corner, because I guess, like we've been saying, art is so heavily ingrained in everything, in every part of that culture, that it's as much an artistic practice to frame a photograph or a painting with tins of beans as it would be to make a super ornate wooden frame.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, by him using those things that we can relate to, like I said, the tins of beans or the old bottles of Coke and stuff, like, then it relates to everyone, because the young people can relate to the fashionable clothing and the Nike ticks and stuff like that. And then you've got the older generation, like my mum and stuff, they can relate to the stuff that's going around it, but they can also relate to the women in the niqab, because my mum used to wear that kind of niqab. She still wears one now, but it's different to that, so that also takes her back to a time of back to her childhood and her growing up there and stuff. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone in that. Like you said, there's color, there's pattern, there's stuff that makes you reminisce. So it's just, as well as showing you a bit of North Africa as well. So it's just a massive mix of so much. Like, you just can't stop looking at it, and you can stare at it for ages. Like, it's just so nice to look at.
Yeah, the whole series that he's done of these biker girls in Morocco are just so cool. Fatiha, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Could you just let us know where it's best to follow you, to hear what you're getting up to?
Firstly, thank you for having me, because I've enjoyed it. I like talking about art, and so thank you for having me. And I think what you're doing here is great. I love it. And I'll come back anytime and talk about anything. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Just had to remember then, and it's just under my full name, Fatiha El-Ghorri.
Thanks so much for watching. You can follow Fatiha in the ways written below, and as per usual, you can follow me at VerityBabsArt on Instagram. Please do give us a subscribe, a like, a share, and I will see you next time.